And a very, very good morning to all my dear students. Hope you all are fine and safe, and you all have safely enjoyed your kite flying festival, that is Uttarayan. Now, today in your environmental looking around book, we are going to start a new lesson, that is lesson number 17. The name of the lesson is Tejalin in Ahmedabad. Now, dear children, in this lesson, we are going to know something about the houses, the arrangement of houses that are there in the cities and the ones that are found in the villages. But before starting our work, all of you have to first write today's date, 21/20/21, and class work. Now we will start our work. As I told you that there's a lot of difference in the when you live in a village and when you come to a city like Ahmedabad, the place where you live, there are different type of houses that are there in a big city, and the villages, there's a certain type of house which is around everywhere in the village. Nearly the same type of houses are there, but in the cities it is not like that. There is a multi-story house is there, there's a single story house, tenement is there, so small houses are there, one room house is there, so different type of houses are there. So when Tejal is a girl, the story in this lesson revolves around that girl only who first came to Ahmedabad with her mother, and how she felt about the facilities that they get in the villages and once they get in the cities. In the cities also, dear children, the area, certain areas are well developed and certain areas are not so developed. So there also they have lot of difficulties for water. Then uh, the, all the facilities that they should get in the cities they don't get. Now we will start our lesson. Tejal in Ahmedabad. I came to Ahmedabad a month ago with my for my mother's treatment. My mother has been admitted in the hospital. Now, Tejal is a girl who has come with her mother in Ahmedabad because her mother is not well and she's admitted to a hospital in Ahmedabad. So that is the reason she has come to Ahmedabad 1 month ago. The big city, Ahmedabad. I have slowly got used to the city. I still remember the day when my mother and I got off the train at Ahmedabad station. It was so crowded, I quickly caught hold of my mother's hand. So now she is telling the story about a month back when she first landed at the Ahmedabad railway station. She came to the Ahmedabad by train. So as she got off the train, she saw a lot of crowd on the station. There was so much of crowd that she was afraid to see that crowd, and she suddenly caught hold of her mother, क्योंकि उसको ऐसा डर लग रहा था कि इतनी भीड़ में कहीं वो खो ना जाए. इतनी सारे लोगों को देखकर उसको ऐसा लगा कि हाँ, तो इतने सारे लोग हैं, वो देखकर ही वो डर गई और उसने अपनी मम्मी का हाथ तुरंत पकड़ लिया. You can see this picture of Tejal and her mother, Tejal holding the hand of her mother tightly. I was thinking about how Mama would find us in the crowd. Just then, I heard someone calling loudly from behind, Tejal, Tejal. I turned back and there was Mama. Now, from this you can make out that Tejal has come to her Mama's place. तेजल कहाँ है? ये अहमदाबाद में अपने मामा के घर पे आई है और वो ये सोच रही थी कि इतनी भीड़ में मामा उन लोगों को कैसे ढूंढेंगे. तभी पीछे से आवाज़ आई, तभी पीछे से किसी ने आवाज़ दी, तेजल तेजल, एंड शी टर्न्ड अराउंड टू लुक एंड मामा वाज स्टैंडिंग देयर टू रिसीव देम एट द रेलवे स्टेशन. We left the station and were soon on our way to मामा's house. और वहाँ से रेलवे स्टेशन से निकलकर वो लोग अपने मामा के घर की ओर जाने लगे. This was your page number 129. Now we move on to page number 130. You can see this picture of Tejal's mama's house, where you can see there's only one room where you have to eat also, where you have to sleep also, where you have to cook also. That means there's only one place where you have to do all the things that you do day to day. Your daily routine is to be carried out only in this one room. यहाँ पर आप देख सकते हैं मामा और तेजल सब घर पे आ रहे हैं. This is the narrow lane from which they are coming. You can see these houses very close by. तो ये जो जैसे हम छोटे छोटे जो घर होते हैं और एक ही लाइन में बहुत सारे ऐसे घर होते हैं. But it was very crowded everywhere. There were many huts lined up all along the narrow street. Now, when the Tejal was coming to her mama's place, what she saw was that there was crowd all around. That means there were people all around. She could see the people, and only people. And when she entered her mama's lane, she could see that there were many huts. This one room was made in sort of a hut. मतलब एक ही रूम का छोटा सा घर जो था, ऐसे बहुत सारे एक ही लाइन में एक नैरो पतली गली के अंदर ऐसे बहुत सारे घर बने हुए थे. We walked through the street to reach the mama's house. Mama, mommy, and their two daughters and a son all live in one room. Now, who all is there in the Tejal's mama's family? Tejal's mama, mommy, their two daughters, and one son. That means 5 people were living in that one single room. And now Tejal and her mother was also there to live. That means total 7 were there to live in that one room. Now I too live here with them. It is here that we sit, sleep, cook and wash all in one room. That means यही एक रूम है उनको रहने के लिए, जहाँ उनको रहना भी है, सोना भी है, खाना भी खाना है, खाना भी बनाना है, कपड़े भी धोने हैं. Everything they have to wash the utensils also. Everything they have to do in this one room only. और अब तेजल भी इनके साथ रहने लगी. सो शी इज द 6th member और 7th member जो कि उसकी मम्मी है. शी इज एडमिटेड टू द हॉस्पिटल. My house in the village also has only one room, but we have separate place too for cooking and for bathing. We also have a courtyard outside. Ab Tejal started comparing her house in that one is in the village and one where she is in the city in her mama's house. So what she is telling that even in the village also we live in one room only, but there we have a separate place for cooking as well as for bathing. मतलब नहाने के लिए बाथरूम है और खाना बनाने के लिए किचन जो है दो अलग अलग है. और we have a courtyard outside, मतलब बाहर एक बड़ा सा आंगन भी हमारे पास है. So they have lot of space, one room but lot of open space, a kitchen, separate kitchen and a separate bathroom. So that was the difference. That was the first difference that she saw when she came to the city in her house and in her mama's house. Rutwa, Mami and I get up at 4 o'clock every morning and go to the public tap. Now here starts the second difference that Tejal could make out. The first was that they also lived in the one room only, but there in the village they had separate place for cooking and bathing, and they had a courtyard. That means they had enough space to live in that house. Whereas at Mama's place, there was only one room and all the day-to-day activities were to be carried out in that one single room. Now, the second point was about water. Now here where the mama used to live, they had a public tap. That means there was one tap and all the people living in that lane had to get the water from that tap only. That means that was the one tap provided by the municipality in that lane, and the people had to get water getting up early at 4 o'clock in the morning. So now Tejal is telling that Rutwa is her mama's daughter, and Rutwa, Mami and I, all of 3 of them get up early at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then they go to the public tap to fill the water. Oh no, you won't believe how many fights are there for water. If we are late, just a little late, then we are not able to fill the water for that day. Now, what is Tejal telling? Tejal is telling that we had to get a at 4 o'clock early in the morning. Then we had to go to the public tap. But there, what did she saw that all the people, all the ladies who were standing to fill the water were there. They were fighting with each other to fill the water. And if you are little late, then if you at the time that you have to reach, if you don't reach at that particular time, then whole day you have to live without water. That means you are not able to fill the water for that day. Without water you have to live. There is no tap in our हाउस इन द विलेज टू. उसने क्या कंपेयर किया? अपने घर को, विलेज के घर को और शहर के घर को, दोनों को कंपेयर किया. उसने ऐसा बोला कि विलेज के घर में भी हमारे यहाँ टैप तो नहीं है घर के अंदर, लेकिन कहाँ से पानी भरते हैं? गांव में लोग जो है नदियों में से या तालाबों में से पानी भरते हैं. The pond in the village has water. It takes 20 minutes to walk to it. In summer, sometimes the water in the pond dries up. Then we have to walk for almost an hour to the river to get the water. Now, there are two options in the village, in Tejal's village. One is the pond and the other is the river. So, it is just 20 minutes walk from Tejal's house in the village to get the water from the pond. And sometimes what happens in the summer, the pond dries up. Then they have to walk almost a kilometer, which is to get the water from the river. That was in the village. Now we move on to page number 131. But in the village, there were no fights for water. So the difference in the village and the city was that there also they had only one common place, either the pond or the river, to get the water. And here in the city also there was a common tap. But the difference was that in the city the ladies used to fight for the water, whereas in the village nobody used to fight for the water. In the street where Mama lives, there is a toilet at one end. Now here the next thing is that there is a common toilet at Mama's place. That means at the end of the lane there was one toilet, and that toilet was used by everybody living in that lane. That means only one toilet and so many people using that toilet. Everyone in the street uses the same toilet. It is always very dirty and smells so foul. Bad. In the beginning I felt like vomiting. So it because there are so many people to use, so it is always dirty and always a bad smell used to come from the toilet. It is quite natural because there are large number of people using the one toilet. That means it is going to be like that only. So initially when she came to her mama's place and she started using the toilet, she felt like vomiting because of that foul smell and the dirty toilet she saw. At times there's no water, we have to take water with us also. So many a times there was no water was also not there in the toilet, then they have to carry their own water with them also. Now I am getting used to all these. In the village people go out in the open for places or fields for the toilet. The men and women go to different places. Now the next difference between the village and the town is that in the village there were no toilet facility, was not there, and normally the people in the villages use the open fields for the as a toilets, and men and women go to different places. They use different places as the open places as the toilets. And in the city, what was that? There was one toilet which was common, which was used by men and women and children, everyone. Now there certain questions are there. Right. Why did Tejal have to bring her mother from the village to Ahmedabad? Now Tejal's mother was sick, so Tejal had to bring her mother to Ahmedabad for proper treatment. Tejal की मम्मी बीमार थी, इसलिए उनके proper treatment के लिए उसको अहमदाबाद लाए थे. Why did Tejal used to feel like vomiting when at first she had to see toilet where mama lived? Now Tejal had to use public toilet at her mama's place. It was not clean and stank badly. Matlab a bad smell was coming. That is why she felt like vomiting. Now we move on to page number 131. Dear children, these answers you have to write it in your notebook, textbook only. Now page number 132. In what ways did Tejal find her mama's house to be different from her house in the village? Tejal's house in the village had one room, but they had separate cooking and bathing place. Whereas at the mama's place, all the activities had to be done in the same room, like sleeping, cooking, bathing, washing clothes, washing utensils, etc. So that everything was to be done in the same place, whereas Tejal had some facilities in the village. What difference did Tejul find between getting water at the public tap and in the village? The biggest difference was there was no fight in the village to get the water. In Tejul's village, it was 20 minutes walk to pond to fetch the water, and there was no fight. Whereas at Mama's place, she had to get up at 4 o'clock to get water, and there was a lot of fight also over there. Dear children, here space was left less, so I had written the answer over here this side. So this is the same answer. Now, was there electricity at the place where Tejal's mama lived? How do you know that? Yes, Tejal's mama had electricity connection because they lived in a big city. So normally the people living in big cities have the electricity connection. In the villages, still many villages are there who don't have electricity connection right now also. But mama was living in Ahmedabad, so he had electricity connection at his place. Now we move on to the story. It is learned. Now you can see this. Now the second part of the story starts from here. Now till now we knew about the facilities that the Tejul had in her village and what she saw here in the city. Now we'll talk about the Tejul's mommy who works as a maid in a multi-story high-rise building that is very common in big cities but which is not एट ऑल कॉमन इन द विलेजेस. विलेजेस में होते हैं छोटे छोटे अलग अलग टेनामेंट टाइप के अलग अलग घर होते हैं, और शहरों में क्योंकि जगह कम होती है, लोग ज़्यादा होते हैं, इसलिए घर जो होते हैं वो मल्टी स्टोरीड ज़्यादा होते हैं. नाउ विल रीड. Every day I go to the hospital by bus to see my mother. At first I was too scared to get into the crowded buses. I was not at all used to it. I was afraid, but now it is not like that. I know how to stand in line, how much to pay for ticket and where to get down. Now Tejal is telling that in the beginning when I came here with my mother and my mother was admitted to the hospital, I had to go to hospital. So at first I was very scared, means I was very afraid to get into the buses in which she had to travel to reach the hospital because it was very crowded. मतलब बसेस जिससे उसको हॉस्पिटल तक आना जाना पड़ता था मामा के घर से हॉस्पिटल तक, वो बसेस इतनी ज़्यादा भरी हुई होती थी कि उसको उसमें चढ़ने से भी डर लगता था. लेकिन धीरे धीरे उसको उस चीज़ की आदत हो गई. अब उसको पता है कि कैसे लाइन में खड़े रहना है, बस के लिए कैसे वेट करना है, कितने पैसे टिकट के लिए देने हैं और किस जगह पर उसको उतरना है हॉस्पिटल पहुंचने के लिए. When we stay, where we stay, there's a tall building nearby. My mommy works in 7 houses there. She washes utensils and cleans the house. Now, what she is telling is that near my mama's place, a little distance from there is a big tall building is there where my mommy works as a maid. You can see this is the picture of Tejal's mommy. She is cleaning the house where she in a tall building she works at 7 houses. मतलब 7 घर में वो मेड का काम करते हैं और वहाँ पर वो बर्तन साफ करते हैं और घर को क्लीन करते हैं. Moving on to page number 133. One day I went there with her. When I first saw the building, I thought that it was one big house. Now Tejal had never seen such tall buildings or the multi-story buildings in the villages. So one day she thought of accompanying her mommy to that building. When she first saw the tall building, she thought that it is a very big one house only. She didn't know that in this building there are many houses because in villages such things are not seen. But I found that there were many houses, one on the top of another. मतलब एक के ऊपर एक जो थे बहुत सारे मकान बने हुए थे. I was wondering how I could climb so many stairs, but there was a lift to take people up and down. अब उसने देखा, जब उसको पता लगा कि इसके अंदर एक के ऊपर एक बहुत सारे घर बने हुए हैं, तो उसने सोचा कि इस पूरी बिल्डिंग में ऊपर तक मैं कैसे इतने सारे सीढ़ियाँ चढ़ के जाऊंगी। पर तभी उसने देखा कि वहाँ पर एक लिफ्ट थी जो पीपल को, लोगों को ऊपर नीचे लाने आने ले जाने लाने का काम कर रही थी। देयर वॉज अ लिफ्ट देयर. इट वॉज लाइक अ बिग आयरन केज विथ फैन, लाइट एंड अ even a bell. So lift was the first, this was the first time she ever saw the lift. मतलब पहली बार उसने लिफ्ट देखी तो उसको लिफ्ट कैसी लगी? It was like an iron cage, मतलब लोहे की एक केज जैसा था जिसके अंदर एक फैन था, there was a light and there was a bell. So many people, so many of us get into into the lift. Somebody pressed the button and the लिफ्ट वेंट अप क्विकली. रियली आई वॉज वेरी स्कैर्ड इन द बिगनिंग. और उसको क्या लगा, उसने देखा कि एक साथ बहुत सारे लोग उस लिफ्ट के अंदर घुस जाते हैं. किसी ने एक बटन प्रेस किया और लिफ्ट ऊपर की तरफ चली गई. सो शुरुआत में इनिशियली शी वॉज वेरी अफ्रेड ऑफ गेटिंग इन टू द लिफ्ट, क्योंकि एक बटन दबाने से ऊपर चली जाती थी, एक बटन दबाने से लिफ्ट नीचे आ जाती थी. इसलिए वो देखकर उसको बहुत आश्चर्य भी हुआ और वो बहुत डर भी गई. Now, there is another small questionnaire, that is tell how many, has any of your relatives been admitted to hospital? Yes, my grandfather. For how many days? 7 days. Did you visit the person in the hospital? Yes. Who was looking after the patient in the hospital? Doctor and the nurses. Have you ever seen a tall building? Where? Yes, in my town. आपने कहाँ ऐसी tall building देखी? हमारे शहर में भी अब ऐसी बहुत सारी tall buildings हो गई हैं. There are many flats in our town Surendnagar also. How many floors did the building have? Building में कितने floors थे? जो बिल्डिंग आपने देखी उस बिल्डिंग में कितने फ्लोर्स थे? आई हैव रिटन 10 फ्लोर्स. यू कैन राइट योर नंबर दैट यू हैव सीन. हाउ मेनी फ्लोर्स डिड यू क्लाइम? आप कितने फ्लोर तक गए थे? आई हैव रिटन 5 फ्लोर्स. सो दीज टू आंसर्स यू कैन चेंज. इवन you can change any of these answers you like. You can write on your own also. Now we move on to another house, that is your new topic.